Hi, I'm Bil VornDick, and we're at Ocean Way A in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm with Lynn Fuston. Are you Lynn Fuston?
Yes, I am.
He's a great engineer.
And he's a great engineer. Hi, Bill. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
The thing for me, just having the right tools, it's like the difference in, because I used to do carpentry, it's like the difference in having a wooden miter box and trying to cut everything by hand. And, you know, you can spend a long time, and you can do it well if you're really good at it, but having that power miter where you just like slide it in there, go, psst, and you're done.
I got a DeWalt. I love it.
But, you know, having the right tools is just everything. Because it makes everything easy.
One nice thing about the assortment of microphones, each instrument is different, and sonically it's different, and the characteristics and the tone colors. So you have a palette.
Yeah. It's like people asking about vocal mics. There's like, okay, what... Yeah, it's like, okay, what is the best vocal mic? It's like, well, who's the vocalist? You know, is it, and what day is it, and what song is it? Because I've had vocalists where, you know, we spent, you know, a few hours coming up with the right vocal mic on this one particular song. And then you go to the next song, and all of a sudden it's in a completely different range, and it's like, oh, this sounds like mud. It's like, we're going to have to, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
Or changing the preamp. Changing the preamp could do the same thing.
Sure.
There's really not, everybody's looking for the Holy Grail, the one best, and there's not one. Not that I've found.
But if you were to choose one mic, a 57.
Did you ever see the cover that I did? It wasn't a cover, but it was a shot for the magazine with the R84. And I actually did a story for EQ magazine. And it was called Desert Island Mics, and I interviewed like 6 different people. And so I actually have a picture of me sitting on a sandy beach with 2 microphones. And this is very appropriate because one was a 57 and the other was an R84.
I do a lot of acoustic and jazz. And what I like about ribbons is that it smooths out. I'm not having to deal with the upper harmonics necessary where I can get a good, nice, round tonal bass with ribbons. It's not that I use them on everything, but if I have an instrument that's a little wanky sounding, I can change it from a condenser to a ribbon, and the wanky goes out.
Yeah.
How can we define wanky?
Unpleasant,
unwanted frequencies that we don't like. Well, Lynn and I have both used this on drums, and I really like this, either on the front of drums, or if I'm doing jazz drums, using as overheads, not to necessarily catch the cymbals, but to catch the whole drum kit. I treat overhead microphones to capture the drum sound instead of just cymbals. It's nice, and it's clean, and it's warm, and it's got balls.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I like to use this on is I'll use it for strings, like a string orchestra. If you've got a small room, especially a lot of situations where I'm working in a smaller studio and we've got a decent-sized string group, but there's no ambience, I'll put a ribbon overhead, just, you know, up, well, as high as I can get it, you know, 10, 12 feet, and use it right overhead. And this, and I use the 84s as well. They're great for coming up with space that doesn't exist. If I'm looking for more of a movie score kind of sound, that's bigger, it's larger than life, whereas condensers in a small space, especially on stringed instruments, a lot of times you can get a lot of rosin and you can get a lot of presence, but no depth. And what I found is in a small room or a dead room, I could put this up real high over the whole group and get a great stereo picture and a lot of depth. And so I love it for that. One of the cool things about figure eights is, and people understand that it's a figure eight, but they don't understand that it's there's absolutely nothing on the sides. I do this demonstration when I do presentations, and you talk into the microphone, and then you turn it when you're off axis. Okay, so I'm talking into the microphone right here, but then, especially if you're in a dead room, you get all the way over here, and you talk into it right here, and you can talk in a normal voice, and it's like you don't hear a thing unless all you're hearing is the reflections. Incredible for problem solving. Another thing that people don't realize, a lot of times people think a figure eight, it's not very useful because it's picking up the front and the back, and I'll use a condenser in cardioid. I've done orchestral sessions. As a matter of fact, I did one out at Sound Kitchen where we were scratching through the microphones, and he was talking into the microphones. I said, well, you've obviously got these backwards because this one has a whole lot more room in it than that one does. And we checked them both, and they were right. So a figure eight in a large room, if you're singing into it like this and there's nothing behind it, you'll get a whole lot more isolation as far as the pickup from the room, a lot less spill than a condenser in cardioid. I mean, it's the inverse square law. So if I'm talking in here and the sound going into the back of the microphone has to go 15 feet over there and 15 feet back, it's insignificant by the time it gets there. So a lot of times I'll cut vocals with it. If there's enough room, I don't baffle the back of the microphone. You don't need it. And if you get too close to it, you can end up with problems.
Martin asked me to do the images for the Fishman R that were going to be in all the retro series of the Martins. It's like a snapshot, a sonic snapshot of the tonal color of an instrument. So Martin brought down the vintage D18, D28, the OMS, and the 1941 D45. And I did the images on those guitars. And I wanted to take the best images that I could, so I went back to all the way back to the first microphones that those Martin guitars would have ever seen in a radio station or in a recording studio, and then brought them from the oldest all the way up to the present day microphones, and there's 22 microphones I chose for that, and imaged each one of them. So if someone wanted to download an image or have a different image in their D45 and they wanted it to sound like it was from the 30s, they could use I used a 440, a 639 EV, a 77, 74, you know, the ribbons? Yeah. Oh, and the CU, this one, the CU4, it had just come out, and this was amazing, this particular mic. And what we did is took the images of the old Martins, and then with the aura processing in the new Martins, when someone buys one of the new retro series, it comes out sounding like an old Martin when you plug it in. When you just plug it into the guitar, and you can have your choice of what you want that guitar to sound like. It's pretty neat.
That's very neat.
Yeah.
We live in a world where the mixes frequently are about this deep, and it's because everything's mic'd from this distance. And what I fear that a lot of the younger guys don't understand is that the sound of a voice or an instrument from 12 inches is different than the sound of an instrument at 3 feet, which is different than the sound of an instrument at 12 feet. And it doesn't matter how much reverb you add or how many effects you add, it doesn't sound the same.
No.
It's like having a singer sing a pass, and if it's not loud enough, you just turn it up. It's like, well, when a singer is singing at 40%, and you turn it up 6 dB, it doesn't sound anything like that singer singing at 80%. The timbre changes. And the way a musician will play to this microphone is going to be different than the way they'll play to that microphone. And the way they'll play when they're playing by themselves is different than the way they'll play when they're playing in an ensemble. And I think what I hear in music these days is everybody sort of doing their own thing, and it's like, well, we'll just put it together in the mix, as opposed to
getting it going down.
Yeah. Because when you get a group of musicians and they're hearing each other, they're playing based on the feedback that they're getting. And one of the things I love about Nashville is, you get 5, 6, 7 guys together in a room. We're talking hundreds of years of experience. It's just astounding. And they're all playing off of each other, as opposed to saying, okay, well, you put down the bass part and email it to me, and you put down the dobro part and email it to me, and you put down the guitar part and you put down the fiddle part, because they're all just sort of doing their own thing, and they're all in their own headspace thinking about nothing but them. You get them all in the same room, and it's like, oh, I was going to play there, but I'm not. Obviously the guitar's taking that space. And it's completely different.
And the more vintage and the better musicians, actually, they're mixing the record for us as they're playing.
Yeah.
A lot of people will set up a room and not listen to the room when they're setting up instruments. Mm-hmm. And when you're working, I work a lot with acoustic instruments. And I'll just bring out this one thing. When you're working with an upright bass, just don't set the upright bass in any just particular spot. Actually have the bass player play in that area. You can once you've done this a lot, you can know what area about's going to work, but you don't know specifically what spot that peg needs to be in and what angle the bass needs to be at, and where the axle modes are running in that particular room. So you find the bass where all the notes are evenly dispersed, where the bass player feels that that's the way my instrument sounds in the best environment, and then mic that spot, and then mic the other instruments accordingly, and move around. If you're doing an acoustic guitar, do it on a live floor, but find the spot. If you're in most studios and you've got the wall behind you, there's a bass trap. There's some kind of trap in there, and maybe the acoustic guitar is going to sound better 6 inches forward than where the chair was set up. So actually have the guys playing guitar move around in that particular area and find out where the axle modes are complementing that particular instrument.
Another thing is polarity in headphones. Very few people pay attention to polarity in headphones, and it makes a huge, huge difference. Because if the singer is singing and everything is coming back to them is out of polarity with what's coming out of their throat, then everything sounds thin, and they're going to be uncomfortable. That's real easy. It's real easy to figure that out. You can go out and talk on the microphone. A lot of people never think about that.
Or just changing the headphones.
You can change the headphones.
Yeah,
and sometimes the wiring, especially these days. I mean, it may go through 20 different things. It may go through a Morme box. It's going to go through converters. You've got latency and all that. So the only way to know is go out there with the headphones.
Or just record analog.